Welcome to the Hrafn Viking Shipyard. If you want to build your own Viking boat, then I made this podcast for you. My name is Andy Bennett. Follow me as I undertake the step-by-step process to build and sail my own replica of a 900-year-old Viking lapstrake sailboat. Specifically, I'm building a replica of a 7.7 meter long Viking workboat that was found in Denmark, and it dates to 1130 AD. The boat dimensions come from the Gislinge boat open source project, and it's published by the Viking Ship Museum in Roskilde, Denmark. Today, I'm treating the lumber for the ship that I'm building. This is a white oak tree that came down in Cokato, Minnesota. It was blown down in the windstorm. I hired a local portable sawmill and a guy with a skid loader to harvest it, and then we cut it up and brought it into my garage. And today I'm treating it with 20 mule team borax and basically boiling water. And what this will do is treat it for termites, spiders, and ants that I don't want to introduce into my garage, and also kind of protect my investment in the lumber itself, so that as it's drying, I don't have insects working on pieces of the lumber. I'm not going to kiln dry this, so I want it to dry through the winter in my garage, all stacked up. And so what this will do is prevent additional insect damage as it's doing that. So that's the treatment I'm going to do. And basically, you just stir it up and then you just brush it on. And you get all sides of the wood. Brush it on nice and liberally. How the borax works is it disrupts the ability of the insect to digest food, and the termites and ants basically stop eating and they die. So it's very, very effective, but it also is relatively safe. It's a common mineral, and so this is a pretty field expedient way of treating your lumber so that it won't be subject to insect damage. Okay, today I'm going to finish prepping my wood for the drying process, and what I'm going to do is coat the ends of the end grain with something called anchor seal, and what this will do is prevent checking. That's the cracking of the end grain as it dries. What happens is the capillary action of the grain, as it dries, it wicks the water through, and it will cause the log to dry unevenly, and that's what causes the cracking in the log. So by sealing that off with something like anchor seal, that does slow down the drying process, but what it causes it to do is dry it more evenly, and it eliminates about 90% of the checking. The most important treatment that I'm doing on my wood is putting on a coating of pentacryl on the wood. Pentacryl is a preservative solution, and what it does is it prevents cracking. If you put it on soon enough, And what I do is I just take an old sock and I put on some kitchen gloves. And I just pour it onto the wood. And then I smear it on. And put it on very liberally and let it soak into the wood and let that dry. And over time, what that does is it displaces the natural moisture in the wood, at least at a little ways down into the wood. It soaks in there, and it does slow the drying process a little bit, but it also protects it. And since I'm not taking this into a kiln, that's really important for me as I'm drying it out in the garage here over the winter. So the total cost for treating my wood was about $360. The biggest part of that was the pentricle. That was $290. They're pretty expensive. That's 3 gallons at about $80 a gallon. And then $60 for the gallon of anchor seal. And then a couple bucks a box for the 20 mule team borax. But that cost, I think, is well worth it because I spent $3,800 on the white oak wood. So I see that as a valuable protection of my investment. I hope you found this video informative and useful. And if you did, please like the video and subscribe to my podcast so you don't miss any episodes. And as always, if you're in the Minnesota area, please stop in. Helping hands are always welcome at the Hrafn Viking Shipyard. Thank you very much.